sustainable development. We'll start this. Since we do not have much time, we will not be in a position to discuss all the issues, or maybe I'll start this concept only, and then maybe in the next class, next week, we'll try to pick up the different components of sustainable development. Now, while talking about this sustainable development, actually, we need to go back a little bit. The concept of sustainable development, or maybe this word has become a buzzword nowadays, since I think 1992 when the Earth Summit was held. But of course, the concept came a little bit earlier. In fact, we talk about, so before we talk about the initiative to have a kind of formalized thing for sustainable development, we can go back a little bit more to the 1970s when the world was actually talking about the limits to growth. In fact, people at that point of time in 1970s, actually, so they felt that the way the economic activities were going on, so ultimately there will be a limit to the process of growth. And that actually led Club of Rome to launch a project which was actually entrusted to some of the people in MIT, and ultimately this MIT group came up with a report which was known as the limits to growth. This limits to growth actually it's a very big report. It's available online. You can have a look into that as well. Basically, basic premise of this report was that if the process of growth continues unchecked the way it was going on in the 1960s and 70s, then after a point of time, actually they say around 2070s, okay, so everything will come to a standstill. Enough resources will not be available. Economic activities cannot be performed. That is what they talked about. So they say that there should be some intervention in the process of economic growth and development, so that the resources are made available for the future generation also. They predicted that if the current process of growth continues by 2070s, okay, the growth will come to a halt. Not enough resources will be available. Of course, during that phase itself, there was energy crisis in the world. US, Canada, Western European countries, Australia, all those, New Zealand, all those countries faced a serious problem in terms of kind of petroleum products. Okay, so first of all, the petroleum prices actually jumped up, and not much petroleum was available. So many works could not be completed properly. So there was huge problem for carrying out the basic activities in different parts of the world. So of course there were many issues out there. Arab-Israel war was there. That was one of the reasons. And kind of Middle East countries were not producing enough of petroleum. So supply was not sufficiently available. So obviously under those circumstances, if the resources are not sufficiently available, obviously the income growth or maybe economic development cannot take place in the desired rate. Actually, this energy crisis precipitated by oil price jumps also accentuated this problem. And as we know that in the case of environmental resources, market doesn't exist, market fails. And obviously, in fact, if you leave it to the market economy, so they will not be in a position to take care of the problem of this market failure. So that is not, so intervention will be required. So under these circumstances, you see, there are other problems also. Because you see, so after this limits to growth report, no, there were some people who actually called for slowing down of economic growth so as to avoid or postpone environmental and natural resource crisis. But at the same time, you see, there were a lot of other countries where poverty was widespread. So existence of widespread poverty and deprivation in the developing countries, or maybe the less developed countries, necessitated enhanced level of economic activities in those countries, so that poverty and underdevelopment can be eliminated in an expeditious manner. So there were problems out there. Some of the people felt that, you see, this kind of current growth exercise is unsuitable, so that is to be slowed down or stopped. Whereas in other parts, there was actually a huge need of kind of expediting the process of growth. So there should be some kind of balance between these two approaches. So to find out a way of reconciling these conflicting goals of speeding development process on one hand and conserving resources and environment on the other hand, the United Nations instituted the World Commission on Environment and Development in 1983 under the chairmanship of Mr. Brundtland. So he was the then Prime Minister of Norway. And actually, this commission came out with its report, and that was titled as Our Common Future. And this report provided an articulated definition of sustainable development. Okay, so that way, in fact, the concept of sustainable development came into being as a result of the report Our Common Future, which was actually prepared by the World Commission on Environment and Development. So we have the concept of sustainable development as given like this. All of you probably know what the definition of sustainable development is. So it tries to define sustainable development as the process of development which meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. A number of things are out here. Actually, the development should be such that it can take into account a lot of intergenerational equity. You see, so we need to have a development which should be sufficient to ensure our requirement, but at the same time, for the future generation also, it should provide enough scope of actually fulfilling their dreams or maybe requirements. So that way, in fact, the concept becomes very appealing, but at the same time, it is ambiguous also. Some people called it delightfully vague. Okay, so it's very good, but at the same time, it's not very clear. It's vague. So that's why it was called as delightfully vague. So there are certain issues. So when we are saying that the development, sustainable development will be the development which meets the present needs. So there is a question regarding present needs. So are we sure? Do we know we can we actually estimate exactly what will be our present needs or not? So that is a question, big question out there. What are our present needs? So whether we know about our present needs. For example, to answer this question, let me go back a little bit. You see, mobile revolution is the greatest revolution, technological revolution of the present century, as I can see. In fact, smartphone revolution, in fact, 20th century, we have to tell that. Mobile came in, I believe, in India in the 1990s, towards the end of 1990s. Okay, so but at that point of time, it was a device for making phone call to somebody. It was something like that. It's a simple device. But later on, with technological development, the smartphone came, and smartphones have changed everything. And those people, even in 1999 or 2000, we're not sure whether this type of a smartphone revolution will happen in the world or not. But it has happened. So later on, it was felt that it was needed. There was no point of having so many gadgets. Rather, the smartphone itself will be enough to take care of so many issues. You may not have to carry the laptop, okay, to communicate with others. So the smartphone itself will be enough. But so that way, in fact, what we mean to say is that the needs which were not visualized or maybe beforehand could be comprehended in maybe 1999 or 2000. So became or maybe came to be known as our needs by 2005, 6 or so. So that is the thing. So we are not in a position to estimate or evaluate our current needs. So if that is the case, how can we evaluate the needs of the future generation? our generation ourselves are not in a position to evaluate our needs, then how would we be able to evaluate our needs, not our needs, needs of the future generation? That's still a big problem. And third one is the requirements to meet the future needs. Even if we can evaluate or maybe estimate the future needs, okay, so how much resources will be required to meet those future needs? How can we, or how will we be in a position to evaluate that? That is another problem. So there are a lot of issues which are not very clear in the definition out there. So that is why it is believed that although the definition given by Brundtland Commission was very good, it was very appealing, but actually there are a lot of operational difficulties in this definition. But even then, this concept of sustainable development has become very popular, and it has been taken up by international agencies. If you look into, you can find out that actually sustainable development goals have become very uh, top priorities for any policymaker in different countries of the world. In India, actually, we are talking about meeting the sustainable development goals. Around 8 goals were there, have been defined, and by 2013, it is believed that will try to actually fulfill these sustainable development goals. So that way, in fact, sustainable development goal has become integrated with the policies of different countries in the world, and it has become very kind of it has become part of the process of development itself because of the relevance of the concept, because of the appropriateness of the concept in today's process of development. So with this, I'd like to conclude for today. If you have any question, please raise. The other parts, or maybe quite a few other things are there, which we can take up maybe in the next classes to follow. So if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer those.